We're up to that pay hey Yom Aleph, the Mishnah. Just before we start the Mishnah, just give you quickly a heads up what I told you yesterday. So we're learning about if somebody said koinim and all my belongings should not go to a kohen and to a Levi. So we learned that the kohen Levian can enter your property regardless, and the reason is you don't really own anything in Truma and Mice. You don't really own it; it belongs to the kohen and the Levi. Only thing is you have the right. You have Tevas Hana. You have the right to decide who to give it to. And since he said, I will not give it to any kohen, so basically the Gemara use expressions like afra, almost like just dirt, dust. It's dirt that has no value. And therefore the kohen can come and take it. Why? Because they're not taking it from you. It's as if it is hefker. That's basically what we learned yesterday, Gemara. So the first thing we noted is that where do we use that expression? Hefker is like afra the alma is by chametz. When we say over there that we are mevatel the chametz, we say hefker, and you afra and it's like offer. No in the Gemara says that. It's a Rashi in Psachim that Vogel of Beis and in all the Shem and everything else. Where do we have that expression that hefker is like afra the alma comes from right here? This is where it comes from. Now, there's an argument in Rashi and Taisus what exactly is the mitzvah of tashbitzu, that you have to mevatel the chametz. Taisus says that's hefker. Bittul is matam hefker. Rashi holds bittul is not matam hefker. Rashi holds a special pasuk called tashbitzu. The Ramban there in the beginning of Psachim says that if you in your mind it's like offer, and that's what the Rabbi of Rashi Bat Nuda says that we're worried. The reason why you buy the chametz, we are worried you might cancel that bittul and turn the offer back into something reality. But what exactly does Rashi say tashbitzu achieves? So we see from here that in your mind, if you treat it like offer, that in itself makes it like hefker. It says right here. Big machlek is rishonim, and something is asa bahana. When you're not allowed to have any benefit from it, does it still belong to you? For example, on Pesach, if you mashke is no longer yours, it's asa bahana. If somebody walks into your house or steals all your mashke, are they a ganef? Forget the fact that they just took chametz and everything else, but are they a ganef? Because does it have an owner or not? And we know that there's a whole discussion whether person passes away in Pesach, there's the chametz that he owns transferred to the heirs or not, because is there ownership? Big machlek is Rishonim. Rashi, when it says there that Shnei Dvarim and Zavon Be Shnei Dvarim that two things are not in your domain, but the Eibusha makes it. Rashi adds Eina Shaloi, which Shulchay seems that Rashi clearly is trying to say that something you have no control over, you don't have any ownership.
So you have reparations payments or something which is also
same question. That's that makes a difference.
It's going on my tree, but does that mean someone else can come and
take it? Same question. So
they can have either systems have to
true, but are they a ganef? We were just focused.
They don't know.
That's exactly. So that's it. Are they a ganef?
It's also now they can't.
Let's say chametz on Pesach. After Pesach becomes mutar mater. So in the Sha'al Tshuvas Rush, the back of the Sha'al Tshuvas Rush, they put together like 3 pages of small print. All the shittas in Yisur Hanof, it's yours or not yours. But basically, it boils down to another machlekes. When you say that you own something, this is how the Achronim explain the crux of their argument. What does ownership mean? Ownership means that you have exclusive right to use it. Is that what ownership is? Or it is much deeper than that, much more profound. Something about the object itself and myself, we have this intimate relationship that it's mine. If ownership means I have the exclusive right of using it, in the moment it's asa b'hana, so what is it? I have no right to use it, so what makes it mine? It's no longer mine. It's eino shaloi. But if you learn ownership is not because I have the right to use it, there's something. That's why you make kinyanim. When you make a kinyan, what happens is there's some kind of a relationship going on between the object and yourself. Then even though I cannot use it, but the object is still mine, how did it become no longer mine? I didn't make it hefker. Now so that's the big argument there. Now we come to argument here. Sorry. Okay, so now comes the truma here.
That truma is yours. If does the ganef have to repay the whole thing that he stole, or the whole thing minus the truma?
Yeah, that was tevel. Just had a mixture of everything there. Okay, so now getting back over here, we have yesterday the Gemara that by truma we say it's no longer yours, it's like hefker. So we have a fascinating argument here between the Ran and the Rashba. In fact, all the Rishonim join in this argument. The Ritva, the everybody joins in. The argument is very simple. From here we see that because I cannot use it, we say it's afra b'alma. So it seems clearly from here that Isa no means it's no longer yours. clear. I mean, why? How could there even be an argument of Rishonim? And we'll see more Kedushin different above, where the Rishonim talk about a bit more. But I'm a Kaddish Ba'orlov, she's Mekadesh or not, which is exactly the subject. But here clearly it says that the Truma is no longer mine. I can no Kohen can use it. So we say, well, you can't use it. No Kohen can use it. So there's nothing here. It's Afrab Alma. It's like Hefker. The Kohenim can take it. So because he claims that Isa no, it's not yours. So what's the discussion of the Rishonim? Because they say that Truma might be very different. Why Truma different? Because Truma already belongs to Kohenim. The Eibishter gave the Truma to all the Kohenim, not to any particular Kohen. That's where I come in and I decide which Kohen gets it. But the Kohenim already have ownership in here. But we're like a partnership. I also have part ownership. My ownership is I can determine who I use it, who I give it to. The moment I can no longer determine that, because I said I'm also, they could take it because they're taking their object. So it's different than an ordinary case of Isser Hana, where it belongs to no one, not me, not them. And the question is, so since they have no right to it, I was the original owner, so what does that leave me today? Over here, in fact, all the way around, it was always the Kohenim's. The Truma, the moment it became Truma, it belongs to the Kohenim at large. Therefore, you cannot draw any similarities between the one here and there. But what we have a fascinating argument here is, so what happens if, let's say, a Kohen took the Truma, and then I go ahead, or let's say I make a neder. This was the round that I was talking about. I made a neder that I don't have anything to do with this. So we're going to compare that to Truma. Well, I'm no longer the Malbas. Somebody else, according to the round that I the Chatchila, they can come and take it. In other words, Isur Hana means it's no longer mine. They can come and take it. But by a neder, there's one thing different than Isur Hana. I can always go to 3 Rabbonim, 3 people, and undo my. So what happens? I said that meat is also to me. So you go to my house. If you hold Isur Hana means it belongs to nobody, you came to my house, you took all the meat I had in the house, and then I go to just to a few or 3 people there, and I undo my neder. Can I take it back? Yeah, and can I take it back? Big Machay is the Rajba and the Ran. The Rajba says yes, and the Ran says no. The Ran says once they have it, it's no longer. I no longer have the right to be shoyal because it's by them already. And the same question is by Truma. So the Ran says by Truma as well. The Ran adds by Truma, even if I'm shoyal it, so I take the Truma away from it, but the Mammon part of it, whoever took it, since at the time when they took it, had every right to take it. Now they're the Balabas, I cannot undo that. So Neder might be different than ordinary Isur Hana. That itself is a big discussion. Anyway, I just want to give you a heads up. Okay, Mishnah. Koinim, she says, remember again, a husband can annul the Nedarim. They fall under 2 categories. Either they fall under the category of Inui Nefesh, and then it's null and void forevermore, or it impacts on their relationship, and then therefore it's only null as long as they have a relationship, or according to others, a potential relationship. The moment they divorce and she marries somebody else, the neder is resurrected. So the Mishnah Kohen, if she makes a neder, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to give any. I don't want my fathers to have any benefit from me. I don't want your fathers to have any benefit from me. Whether my brother or your brother, I don't have any. Can I know the neder? Why can't they know the neder? Because it's not inu nefesh. They won't have hana from me. How does that hurt her? Doesn't. And nor is it directly impacts their relationship. Indirectly, it might impact it, not directly. What happens? She says, I don't want you to have any benefit from me. And we really is that everything that she earns from Maisia there goes to her husband. And this is like a trade-off because he provides for her. And therefore the trade-off is that she gives him, Maisia there. Then we had a whole discussion there. What's 5 shkolim here, 10 shkolim Galil, 5 shkolim Yudah, with that whole thing there. And then there's a concept called Hadafa. She makes more than that. And the Hadafa might belong to the husband if he also gives her spending money, let's say, more kesef. So these are constant trade-offs. Then Abuna came along and said she has every right to say to the husband, "Don't give me food, and I'm not, and none of my earnings go to you." Right? She can say that. Other Amorim agree. So we'll come back to all that in the Gemara here. So the Gemara, she says to her husband, I don't want you to have any benefit. Since she is bound to him, she's meshubet to the husband. So therefore, he doesn't have to annul the neder because she had no right to make a neder in the first place. How could she make a neder to opt out of an obligation that she has, as long as he's providing food for her? Rabbi Akiva says, no, Yafin. Akiva says you should make kafara. Why? Shema tadivolav. Rabbi Akiva is of the opinion that if she makes an excess of whatever the contra is between the husband and her, she makes the extra. Rabbi Akiva hold that belongs to her. According to Tanakama, any extra she makes belongs to her husband as well. So why bother being made for it? She has no right. According to Bakiva, anything above that, it does belongs to her. And the problem is, and she put a ban on that. And the problem is that she has to sit there and constantly work out, make sure it doesn't make a penny more than what he's entitled to. That is very, very difficult. You can't live a life like that. So therefore, it affects their relationship. He has a right to. He should be made for. Anything more over and above the what's entitlements. Rabbi Yechon ben Nuri says Yafer. Rabbi Yechon ben Nuri says he should be mefer. He should be made like Rabbi Akiva, but not because the hadafa belongs to her. The hadafa belongs to the husband. Therefore, nothing happened here. So why should be made for it all? Shema tigashena, because one day you might divorce her, and if you don't, if you're not mefer, if you're not an only neder. Okay, right now her neder has no bearing on you, but the moment you're divorced, the neder kicks in because she owns her own, all earnings now belong to her, so her neder get kicked in. Even though at the time when she made the neder, there's a davar shalai b'la olam, it didn't exist in the world yet. It doesn't matter because, as we'll discuss, maybe she can make a davar shalai b'la, make hegesh a davar shalai b'la. We'll see. But yes, and then he can never remarry her. To avoid that problem, make a hafara right now. So the neder is leibal olam, the hafara is leibal olam, but do it now just in case. Gemara says Gemara. Amar Shmuel says the halacha like Rabbi Yechon ben Nuri. The halacha Rabbi Yechon ben Nuri sounds like what the hadafa really belongs to the husband, but you should still make hafara because her neder will take effect if they ever get divorced, and therefore make hafara now. Remember, the fact that you're telling me that she makes a neder now, which has no validity, but if one day they get divorced, the neder will kick in at this time right now, which is it didn't come yet into the world. Obviously, that Rabbi Yechon Shmuel holds that a person can make hegdish a davar shaloi b'la olam, and that's a big argument. And the problem is going to be Shmuel himself rules that you cannot make hegdish on a davar shaloi b'la olam. So we're going to have a problem. Says the Gemara. But I mean, I have a problem with that. It says if a man says that all the activities, all the earnings and creativity of my wife should become hegdish. She can continue doing. We're talking about a case where he's not giving her any provision, so therefore she earns whatever she earns is her own, and therefore he had no right to go ahead and to he had no right to go ahead and to ban that and to make it into hegdish. How can you make it hegdish? Actually, in Mark Sulas, you have machlekes. It depends if you hold that a woman can say to her husband, "Leave me alone," or a woman cannot say that to her husband, "Leave me alone." So we have different ways of understanding the Mishnah. And the reason is even if the husband is providing mazonos for her, because she has the right to say to the husband, "Stop providing for me, and I'm going to earn it." So therefore, who's the balabos really of her earnings herself? So the husband cannot make hegdish something which has no real control over. No control over. Okay. Let's say he says over and above whatever your earnings that you need to live should become hegdish, which we said is 5 slayim in Yehuda and 10 slayim in Galil. And I may have said hegdish. That it does become hegdish. That will become hegdish. And why? Because talking about a case where it talks about a case where the Gemara explains over there that the husband does not give that extra spending money. If he does not give the spending money, he has no rights on the extra money. So how can he make it hegdish? If she dies, then he inherits it, and therefore mafreya, that will become hegdish. It doesn't become hegdish while she's alive, because he's not giving her the spending money. She doesn't is not entitled to it. But if he made it hegdish, and then one day she dies, which is the davar shalai b'la olam, and I mean, hold you can make hegdish davar shalai b'la olam.
So you're saying he can soymech.
Yeah,
one day she's going to.
That's soymech. If it happens, that one, yes. And Rabbi Chasana says, Rabbi Chasana says, no, it cannot become hegdish. Why? It's a davar shalai b'la olam. She didn't die yet, and you didn't give her the money, so you have no entitlement to it now. And one day she'll die. That's shalai b'la olam. You cannot make it hegdish. But Shmuel there says, halacha Rabbi Yechon Sadler, which is how we see ain't all the magid davar shalai b'la olam. What's going on here? In our Gemara, he passed it like Rabbi Yechid ben Nurini says that a person can be magdallah and make hafara now, because if you divorce, her neder will kick in then. So loy ba'lo'olam, and therefore make hafara now. And over there, he passed like Rabbi Yechid ben Sander, who says that no, if he makes hegdish the extra, the moisture, the extra he makes, and after she dies, it's a loy ba'lo'olam, and therefore it's not hegdish. Which one is it? Interesting. Shmuel always passes Rabbi Yechid. Doesn't matter what's the last name. Sander, he always passes Rabbi Yechid. Says the Gemara, the Chitema. What's that? Exactly. Schneider and this, yeah. The Chitema, if you can tell me. If you're going to tell me, when does Rabbi Yechid ben Nuri say that maybe in our Mishnah, who said that? No, a person cannot be magdish or davar shaloi bala olam. Rabbi Yechid ben Nuri says two things. Maybe who said he only says one thing? Maybe he says two things. You should be mefer. First of all, I agree with. You should be mefer because I agree with the Tanakama that the hadafa belongs. First of all, he made that belongs to the hadafa. That it belongs. The hadafa belongs to the husband. The hadafa belongs to the woman. There's two parts of Yechid. One is the hadafa belongs to the woman. If the hadafa belongs to the woman, she has every right to make a neder on the extra money that she makes, and therefore for that you have to make hafara. And the second thing is it'll affect your the future. The whole thing will affect the future if you get divorced. Maybe that's what he's trying to say. Yeah. Sorry, no. So Moshe Shalom shot like this, different than what I just told you. Rabbi Yechid ben Nuri is saying the reason why you should be made for is only because I'm worried about what's going to happen post divorce. Which means, but right now you don't have to be made for. Why don't you have to be made for right now? Because the hadafa belongs to the husband, and her neder has no effect. In other words, I agree that Rabbi Yechid ben Nuri agrees with the Tanakama. Rabbi Yechid ben Nuri agrees with the Tanakama that as far as today is concerned, her neder has no meaning, has no bearing. You wouldn't really have to make up for her. But I disagree with Tanakama. I hold you have to foreshadow. There's a possibility that one day you might be divorced and you want to remarry. So make her right now. Otherwise, how can you marry her when she makes this kind of a neder? Let's make this kind of a neder. And the Ran explains already that the neder is not only about, she's not only saying about my earnings, but everything that I'm not going to cook for you. I'm not going to. If there's only earnings, then you can get married, and he'll say to her, "You earn your own money. What's the big deal?" So imagine she made this neder. She banned everything, cooking, sewing, and everything else. Exactly, and it's not viable. So maybe what Shmuel meant to say the halacha Rabbi Yechid ben Nuri is only not in regard to the hadafa. Now what? That any extra money she makes also belongs to the husband. So therefore, you don't have to know the neder for that. But not regarding the part that you should know because of the future. Because a person cannot make hegdish in the future. Maybe that's what he's trying to say. It doesn't make sense. First of all, excuse me. But then let him just say halacha Rabbi Yechid ben Nuri behadafa. The halacha, because it's very confusing. He should spell it out. The halacha Rabbi Yechid ben Nuri only as far as the hadafa, that any extra money she makes also belongs to the husband. Number one. Or inami halacha Tanakama. Why even choose Rabbi Yechid ben Nuri? It would be easier to say the halacha Tanakama, which Tanakama says only one thing. You don't have to bother annulling the neder because she had no right to make the neder in the first place. Why doesn't she have the right? Because everything she earns, including the extra, goes to the husband. Or inami say, "Ein halacha Rabbi Akiva." Rabbi Akiva is the only one who has an opinion that the extra money belongs to her. Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Yisrael, right? Because long as I'll give you an answer. But as usual, his student won't let him stay with that answer. Remember that answer. Rabbi Yisrael. Shiny kunus. We're talking here about a neder. You're comparing a neder to hektish. Now we already had this sugi ready before the Gemara. You're comparing a neder to a hektish. A big difference. By hegdish it says ishki in Merubah ishki in Merubah ishki yagdish Amar Yechanan the gezel and shav by gezel and gozabel and yisha bailim or gezel and shav bailim shnei meni yot hagdish. Somebody stole from you, not the owner, not the guy that can make it hegdish. Zelafisha in the beshusha, zelafisha in the shalom. The person who owns it cannot make it hegdish because it's not in his control. We're going to say, like Chassidus explains at length, that time and space are one and the same. Are one and the same. When Hashem created the world at the same time, He created time. The same moment He created time, because in order to have time, you need to have the number two. There has to be a past and a present. or present in the future. Before number 2 was created, you couldn't have time, and the world is number 2. There's age and there's a world. So therefore, that's when the number 2 was created. Before then, it wasn't even 0, 1, just ones. And therefore time and space are the same thing. So therefore, by Hegdish, just like by Hegdish, you cannot make Hegdish on something which is not in your control, out of your space, nor can you make it out of your time. It's not in your time. Tomorrow, you can't make Hegdish, the same thing.
I always say that an item which is stolen, if there's a shinui reshus, if it goes into the reshus of the guy.
That's only true.
So
Shinui reshus alone is not enough. You need Yush Shinui reshus, or you need something else. Okay, every ganav is Shinui reshus. So it's Vaheshes like Zayla. You got to return it. It's not his anymore. No, you need something with the Shinui reshus. And the machlekes is when the Shinui reshus has to take place after the years, or even took place before the years. Sauce and all that. Talk about it. Okay, so now getting back over here. But by neder, I can make a neder that your fruits are forbidden to me. So, but the fruits are not mine; they're yours.
What is that neder
on your fruits? It's on both. On
myself,
the whole. That's not neder. That's true. Neder is on the fruits I'm making. Neder true. Only the Torah gave me the power only regarding me. I can't make a neder on your fruits.
What is that power?
On your fruits, on your fruits. So we see, since my neder, there's a special law that the Torah legislates that I can make a neder on something outside of my space, out of my jurisdiction. I can also make a neder outside my time. So neder is very different. That's what I want to say. Rabbi Yosef, shine the kumas, neder is different. Since I can ban your fruits on me, even though it's your fruits, it's out of my space. So therefore, also out of my time. I can aser, she can aser her handiwork after they get divorced today. Because the neder works differently, operates in a different space than the laws of Hagdish.
Here it comes.
I don't know if you know, it's very nice to have a student ask you a question, but it's a sheer, people are sheer. Abaya did not give Rabbah such a difficult time. Don't know why. Maybe his uncle, yeah. So maybe, and he raised him, say a little bit more. Abaya said, but it's clear that Abaya was more of a student than Rabbah was. Rabbah had other rebbes as well besides Rabbi Yosef. Sorry?
Every time your mind's involved, you were the one who taught us this, And then Rashi asked him, you know, it's close to memory. Do you know?
That's right. Abai said to him, you know why the Torah, what he says is a difference in here between space and time. I can ask your fruits on me. You know why I can do that? Because I can ask my fruits on you. So therefore, the Torah gave me this like a sort of tit for tat. So I can ask my fruits on you, so I can ask your fruits on me. But can I ask your fruits on somebody else? No. However, so here, I can ask your fruits on me. I can ask my fruits on you. So therefore, it works both ways. It works both ways. However, can I ask on you something that has this? Then there's two chesronos. First of all, it's outside of my place and out of my time. She's saying to her husband that my handiwork, whatever it is forbidden to you. So first of all, you're doing it on somebody else, and it's outside in time and space. So therefore, it's two chesronos versus one chesron. One chesron we can tolerate, but not two chesronos. Yeah. Yeshua was a student of a Bible, him and a papa were best friends or peers. But I met her talking about. She said, "Yekachu yodai le'oisehen." She's placing the iser on her hands. You thought she's placing the iser on earnings. She didn't earn yet. So she's placing the iser on the hands that are going to. From there is going to emanate these earnings, and the hands are right here in existence. So it's like a dover shibbola oilam. By medis yekachu yodi le'oisehen. The yadayim is the bailam. Different than the case of Hegdish, where I'm making Hegdish on something that is going to happen on the earnings that she's going to make. That's tomorrow. But here I'm talking about my hands. What my hands produce should be Kodesh. Talking about the hands. So the You're telling me that she has the right to make her hands or what her hands produce kodesh. But mishab the yodel, that's the whole point. The hands don't belong to her. Earnings that come from this hand go to the husband. So the hands also go to the husband. The Omra, she says, she says, when I will get divorced, and the hands then definitely belong to me. The earnings of the hands are here right now. We think put the hands are here right now, even though I don't have any control over them, but I'll have control when I get divorced. So it's like a shtickle ball olam. Says the Gemara. The fact is, right now the hands, even though the hands are part of your body, the hands belong to the husband, and if you're talking about post divorce, that's already a loy ball olam. And so what are you comparing that? So the question goes back. How come if Shmuel says that you cannot be makdish on Dover Shalom, how can you make a neded on Dover Shalom? Say on another person and loy ball olam. So the Gemara, so how do you know this will work? I'll tell you. I'm going to draw a simulate from the following case, and maybe you'll see that attack does work, even though it's a loy bal olam when it comes to a neder. How is that? Amar Rabbi said, "Uma'ilu, nothing to do with neder. You, Rabbi Yosef, tried to come up with a difference between neder and kodesh. We're going to say there's a difference between kodesh and kodesh. With one case where there's nothing around right now, it's only tomorrow that you cannot do. The other one is with some of it, part of it is around now, like your hand. So right now we're saying the hands belong to the husband. The hands are not really here yet today. So let's continue. If a guy says to his friend, you know this field that I'm about to sell to you? When I buy back from you, because I'm selling to you on the condition that I can buy back from you when I'm ready to buy it back. Now I'm desperate for money, but when I have accumulated enough money, I want to buy it back. I'm going to buy it back. I want you to know that taxation will become kodesh. Me like kosher. Not that I have a place that says a kodesh, but why shouldn't it be kodesh? I'm saying it right now. So the same thing over here. She's saying that after we get divorced, then my hands are kodesh. What's the difference? The field or the hands? What do you mean what's the difference? What do you see the difference? Masculine midami. What are you talking about? This field, when you're about to transact this field, right now, who owns the field? The seller owns the field, and before he transfers it to the buyer, he says to the buyer, I want you to know, I'm about to sell you this field, I'm going to buy it back, and when I do, it should become hegdish. And right now, if I wanted to make it hegdish right now, could I have? I could. So therefore, because I have the koyach to make it hegdish right now, I can say I'm delaying that hegdish until I buy it back from you. But in the case of the woman, if she wants to make it hegdish right now, can she? No, the husband owns the hands. How can you make it hegdish? In fact, if you want to draw a parallel, draw another parallel, which will prove just the opposite. And what is that? But masculine Rabbi Yimim, midami, how do you compare it? So does Zushani Meichel has to be Yadihu. Right now he owns the field, so therefore, since right now if he wants to make it hegdish, he could. Therefore, he can delay it by whatever. Isha be Yadul hagdish ma'isi yadel. She has the ability to. If she wanted to make her the hands right now hegdish, could she have? No, it belongs to the husband. So who said she could delay it? So loy baloilam. There's nothing here. In fact, I'll tell you what I can compare it to. If a person has a friend, last year I sold you a field. You remember I sold you a field? I want you to know when I buy back from you, it should become hegdish. And what's it in there? It does not become hegdish because on what basis become hegdish? Where's that hegdish that you said right now? Where is it chal? It's nowhere. And I'll purchase back from you. Tagdish, mi kotcha is a kodesh. Masculine a papa. The papa says back, I'm going to ask a question on the question of Yimi. This is like a fascinating idea. You're comparing it to the field. No, I think the case of woman is stronger than the case of the field, and maybe she could make it hegdish. And that is, me dummy kabizvina when you sold it, milsayu. When you sold it, it's over. Now, what you have nothing in the field right now. When you sold it, you sold the land, you sold the fruit, you sold everything. You have nothing. But one day there's a rider. One day I can buy it back. But right now, what do you own in the field? Zero. Mashenkin gabe isha by woman mipsiki milsa where the hand is cut off from her body. The fact that the hand is still attached to her body, and therefore she must have something. She must have a little bit of a chelik in her hand. So therefore, because she has a little bit of a chelik in her hand, maybe she can make it hegdish. Sorry, but I have. What do you mean? So this hand is not mine. That doesn't make sense. Something is there. We don't know. We can't describe it, but there's something. It's very different in the case of a field where I have nothing. Once I sold it to you, I have nothing. But that's not what we're talking about. I sold you a field, then I'm a soicher. But I sold you a field, and I said to you that when I buy it back, you should become kodesh. And the din is, if I already sold it to you, that I cannot make it kodesh, or even if I cannot make it kodesh anymore. Over there, because what connection is there between the field and me right now? Nothing. It's not going to. But option is not part of the field. It's an obligation on you and me. Nothing to do with the field itself. Exactly. So it's like a rider. It's external to it's extraneous to the whole field.
That option to rebuy is an option.
Yeah, but it's an agreement we made from the beginning. Yeah, it's an agreement.
At the moment, it's non-existent.
Exactly. So it makes it even worse. There's nothing there.
I'll buy back.
There's nothing there. Exactly. There's nothing there at all. That's why it doesn't look Kodesh. Here, after everything's said and done, the hand is still her hand. So the Gemara, holy dummy. You know when you compare to? If you want to say, if you want to compare the case of the woman, someone says to a friend, I owe you $100. I have to give you security. I gave you this field, this land here as security. So this field that I gave you as security, the kishev devna when I pay you back the loan, the outstanding amount, and I take back the field, takdish, I want it to become kaddish. Mila kacha, even though right now you have full use of the thing, but because I can pay you whenever and take the field back, means I have a chelik in the field. Therefore, the kaddish is same to the woman. The woman, her hand is there. If they get divorced, she gets her hand back. So therefore, you can't say there's nothing there. There's something there, and that's why her hegdish might be effective, even though it takes place post the divorce. The more aspect of a puppet. What do you compare? You can bring a woman to a mashkin. He can pay whenever he pays her out, pays the lender out. The lender must give him back the field. The woman can't divorce herself. It's up to the husband when he gives it mahatayt. It's up to the husband when he gives her the divorce. She has no say in activating a divorce, so she has no power to get her hand back. It's not up to her when she gets her hand back. If it happens, it's an occurrence, but it's not up to her. She has no control. So who said that she can make hegdish tomorrow on the basis that maybe she'll get a hand back? But right now she has zero control over her hand, even though the hand is part of the body, but she has no control. If she has no control, so it goes back to the original question: why should the hegdish be chal? Isha biyada is garish. If you want to compare the case of the woman, each one gives his own. It's a geshmakim. Each one gives his own little example to. Someone says a friend, I'm giving you this mask for 10 years. So I have no control now during these 10 years to take it back. We had a thing called a mashkanta de Vesura, which is a special kind of a mashkin that's 10 years long, and every year, a tenth of the loan gets drawn down. But instead of paying rent, whatever. But that's how we're talking, not necessarily, but we're just saying that there's a 10-year mashkin, which means that the borrower has no control of the field right now. When I will redeem it, Takdish, Shugam Haidish. And yet the din there is Mila Kachim one of Kaidish. The same thing in the woman. Even though Takdish has no control of getting a divorce, but because it could be that one day she'll be divorced, she'll get a hand back, the Kaidish is Chal. Masker Ravashi, me dummy. Again, I still don't see comparison. Hossam Kate, at least over there, they gave a definitive time when definitely it hands back. Each of us like Kazusa, for sure. What? She tells the husband we're gonna be married for 5 years and that's it. There's no controls there. Zero controls. At least over there, you have a time limit. So for sure it'll go back to you. So therefore, it makes sense that you can make it kaddish. Elo Ravashi. Ravashi says, let's go to the Mishnah. Ravashi says, shiny kunmas. Kunmas is different. Going back to what Rabbi Yosef originally said, a number of generations later, 3 generations later, Ravashi comes along and says, kunmas. Rabbi Yosef is right. There's a difference between kunmas, and not because of the whole chedron of davar, space and time and all that. I'll tell you what the difference is, because we learned it a few times already in Shas. The chikdushas haguftam, that kunmas is, we learned that three things. I'll tell you the second. Rava said, hegdish. If let's say that I owe money to somebody and I gave them, I said to them, this is security, and I said apoitike. Apoitike means poi tehei koi. This animal, for example, is going to be, if I don't pay, you'll be the security. If I don't pay within a certain amount of time, you can take this animal. Apoitike. And then he turns around and he says that this animal should become kodesh, should become hegdish, become a carbon. Then that hegdish cancels the shibud that you have to the malva. Machlek is Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam. Big Machlek is always trying to talk about it. And that is, and here, whether it's only kedushas haguf or even kedushas damim. The Gemara's expression here, Rashi learns is only kedushas haguf. In other words, if you say the animal itself now is holy, then who owns the animal? Hegdish. There's nothing to give. There's nothing for the lender. There's no lien anymore on this animal from the lender. Rabbeinu Tam holds no, that even a kedushas damim, which means the animal itself is not holy, the value of the animal is holy. But so what? What do I owe this person? Also only value. I can give him, I don't have to give him money, I can give him anything of value. So all I owe the person really is kesef or shava kesef. Value. It became hegdish now the value. It cancels it out. Number one. Number two is chametz.
Not a very strong guarantee after all.
Yeah, exactly. The letter. Yeah. And the second thing is chametz. You know, you gave security to a goy, chametz, and whiskey. Let's say you give him all your wine cellar or your whiskey, not your wine, your whiskey cellar, and all that, and go for his Pesach. That's it. There's no longer, if it comes asa bahana, there's no security anymore. And shikhr, if you have an eved and you decide to deliberate the eved, it's no longer a thing. Is mafki midday shibud. It takes away from shibud. So same over here. If she makes her hands kedushas haguf, she says that my hands, all the earnings of my hands should become holy. That my hands become holy. It cancels the shibud to the husband, and that's why she's able to make the hegdish now. Says the Gemara, if so, why did Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri say? Why did Rabbi Yochanan say the reason why you should be made for it is because it can affect you post the divorce? It affects right now because you're telling me she has the right to make it hegdish right now. And so the Gemara, you're right. Rabbi Yochanan is giving you two reasons. I jumped ahead before. He's giving you two reasons. One reason is you should make for it because right now she has the right to make a kodesh. And number two is, even if you disagree with me, but tomorrow she might be divorced, and then you'll want to remarry her, so might as well just cancel it right now. Okay, we're up to the Mishnah. We actually learned most of tomorrow's Gemara. We'll continue Mishnah tomorrow.
On the bottom.